Alrighty then, let's get started on today's webinar. Um, the Diesel Shop, the website your Diesel Shop deserves. Um, hey everyone, thanks for taking the time to join us today. We know you're busy, you've got trucks to fix, customers to deal with, and a business to run. So the fact that you're here today means you're already thinking differently about how to grow your shop. I'm Ben from Diesel Mac. I'm a web developer and designer. And at Diesel Mac, we work specifically with diesel shops, helping them generate more inbound calls, attract better jobs, and build a more predictable pipeline through your online presence. And today, we're going to talk about something that most shop owners have, but few actually are using properly, your website. But not from a design perspective, not from a make it look nice perspective. We're going to talk about your website as a business tool, because at the end of the day, your website should be doing one thing, making your phone ring. If it's not doing that, it's not doing its job.
Exactly. Hi, I'm Viv, and I'm one of the content writers. You usually find me behind the scenes writing your articles and websites. So, our message for you today is simple but really important. And that's how vital a website really is for your business. I know it might seem strange to think about having your diesel repair business promoted online because really there's so much that goes into growing your business that is grounded in the physical, your shop, the service you provide, but this is a game that includes your digital footprint. So, to help this make sense, we're going to break it down. Why your website matters more than ever, what actually makes your digital shop website convert into calls, how content, SEO, and trust work together, and why diesel websites don't perform even if they look fine. This isn't a theory. It's based in real results from real shops in real markets. We've seen shops double, sometimes even triple their inbound calls. And you know what? They're not spending more on ads. They're fixing how their websites actually work.
All right, so let's go a little bit into the problem that we see typically. And let's start with a simple question. Why do most diesel shop websites not generate consistent calls? There's plenty of demand, trucks break down every day, and drivers are searching online every day. And fleet managers are constantly looking for new reliable partners because the demand is already there.
But the real reason you aren't getting any calls has nothing to do with how good your service is. Because your website isn't built for how people are actually making their decisions. It might seem small, but how your website shows up plays a big part in how your customers get to know you. And we're going to be honest, there's a good chance that your website is just presenting information like it's a digital brochure. It's going to talk about your business, your services, tells people you exist. But there's one really big thing that's missing: connection. You see, just being online and having an online presence isn't enough. It won't guide someone to take an action.
And here's the key shift. Your website is no longer just information. It's where the decision happens. Because before someone calls you, before they meet you, and before they even know your name, they've already decided whether or not they trust you.
And that trust, it's a decision that happens fast. You'd be surprised, but building customer trust isn't based on deep reading. It's anchored in quick signals. Things like, is it clear what you do? Does your business feel legitimate? Can they trust your business?
Take, for example, these two sites you see on your screen. The one on the left has no images or numbers to call, and the one on the right makes it clear what they do, and you can quickly see that this is a more legitimate business. And if your site looks trustworthy and legitimate, like the one on the right, you get the call. And if it doesn't, they leave.
All right, so let's get into how customers actually behave. Let's run through a scenario about the customer process. First up, you've got a driver on the roadside. They've got a problem. They're stressed out. They need help now. They're not thinking about comparing five different businesses. Instead, they're pulling out their phone and typing mobile diesel mechanic near me into the search.
Now they see a list of options, and usually it's in the Google Map pack, where your shop is competing with 10 other shops offering the same service. and they click on the one at the top of their screen with good reviews. And they land on their website and begin scanning. And at that moment, they're not reading the words on the screen. They're scanning, looking for various things.
And all of the above, they're asking themselves these three key questions. Is this shop legit? Can they fix my problem? How do I call them right now? That's it. Surprising, right? Your customers aren't looking for in-depth information. They're looking for the right information that can solve their problem when they need it.
And if your website doesn't answer those, you get the call. And if it doesn't, they leave. Take one of our partners, GoTo Fleet Services, whose website is able to clearly showcase its services and credibility in just the first section.
And why does this happen? Because people in this situation, they're not thinking logically first. They're reacting emotionally. They're under pressure and they want a fast solution to get them off the side of the road and back on the road. So instead of comparing options and details, they're really looking for the fastest, safest choice.
And that's why they scan, because reading takes effort, thinking takes effort, and when someone's stressed, they avoid that effort. So they look for signals, clear services, real reviews, the professional appearance of your website, and ways to easily get in contact with you. And if those signals aren't there, they move forward. And if they are, they give your shop a call.
Now let's take a look at a slightly different situation because not every customer is a driver on the side of the road. Think of a fleet manager. They're not stuck, but they've got a different kind of pressure. They've got multiple trucks, they've got deadlines to manage, they've got drivers relying on them, and they've probably had issues with shops before. Maybe their current shop is too slow. Maybe communication has been inconsistent. Maybe their jobs are taking longer than expected. So now they're thinking, need a better shop.
And this is where it gets interesting, because unlike the roadside driver, the fleet manager is a little bit more deliberate, but not as much as you might think.
They're not spending hours researching. They're still going to Google. They're still searching things like diesel shop repair me near me, fleet truck repair in blank city, semi truck maintenance shop.
And just like the driver, they land on a few websites. Maybe they open two, maybe three, and then the exact same behavior starts happening. They scan.
The questions shift slightly. Instead of this sense of urgency that I need to fix this now, they're thinking about reliability. They're asking themselves, can I trust this shop long term? Can they handle work at scale? Are they professional enough to deal with my business?
And this is where the psychology really comes into play, because a fleet manager is not just choosing a repair shop, they're choosing a partner, someone who they can work with long term.
And that changes the mindset completely. Now it's not just, can you fix this problem? It's, can I rely on you consistently without issues?
And here's the key: the risk feels higher, because if they choose the wrong shop, it doesn't just affect one job, it affects multiple trucks, their scheduling, their costs, and their reputation within their own company.
So even though they're calmer than that roadside driver, they're actually more cautious. But here's the catch. They still don't want to spend time figuring things out.
They don't want to dig through 5 pages of your site. They don't want to guess what you do. They don't want to call just to clarify basic things.
They want confidence quickly. And that confidence comes from the same types of signals. It's just interpreted slightly different.
For example, clear service breakdowns. It tells them that you understand the work. Photos of your shop show that you've established yourself within your area. And mentions of fleet work could potentially show relevance to your use case and your fleet management. And having a professional website layout, it signals reliability.
And here's something really important. They are looking for consistency, not in just your service, but in how you present yourself. Because inconsistency creates doubt.
And if your website feels outdated, if information is missing, and if things don't line up, they start asking themselves, if this is how they present themselves online, what's it like working with them?
And that question alone can stop a decision, even if you're a great shop.
So again, we come back to the psychology. Whether it's a driver or a fleet manager, people are trying to reduce the risk they take.
You'll have a driver reducing the risk by acting fast, but you'll have a fleet manager reducing the risk by looking for that stability. Both are doing the same thing at the core. They're trying to feel confident enough to move forward with their decision,
And your website either helps them get there,
or it slows them down. And if it does, they don't stick around to figure it out. They move on.
because there's always another option, just one click away.
And that's why understanding this behavior matters so much. Because once you understand how people actually think when they're making decisions, you stop building a website based on what you want to say and you start building it based on what they need to see.
All right. So let's go a bit into about how websites work and why speed actually matters. And because this is something that most people underestimate, how fast that decision happens. We're not talking minutes, we're talking seconds.
People don't figure out confusing websites, they don't dig through pages, they don't try to understand unclear messaging. If it's confusing, they leave.
So your website doesn't need to be clever, it needs to be clear, it needs to be immediately communicate what you do, where you operate, and how to contact you.
And we see this reflected in real behavior. A large percentage of users leave websites without taking any action. And this is what we call bounce rate. Bounce rates increase when the message isn't clear, when the site is too slow, and when the layout is kind of confusing.
And the important part is you don't see it happening. So reducing the amount of bounces you get on your site and have more people spending more time scanning and reading means you have a better chance, which means no missed call, no opportunity at a second chance. They just go somewhere else. All right. So let's talk a bit about content and let's talk about what actually makes that possible. Because this is another area where websites fall apart. Their content.
You see, content isn't just words, it's how your business communicates online. It's how you explain what it is that you do, who you help, what problems you solve, and why your customers should trust you.
And here's the part most people miss. Content isn't just for customers. It's also for search engines.
Search engines like Google are trying to match the right business to the right search. They follow an EEAT model that looks for experience, expertise, authority, and trustworthiness. In this, it shows your website. They look at your website and they ask, what services are you offering? Where are you located? How relevant are you to the ask? Do you have expertise in this area? And can your customers trust you?
And your content can give these answers. If it's vague, Google doesn't understand you. And if it's clear, you show up more. It's as simple as that.
You see, the goal is balance. Your content should make sense to a person immediately, but it should also be structured clearly enough for the search engines to understand it. When you do both, you attract the right traffic.
All right. Let's go into why content makes your website stronger. Because strong content can do several things at once. It gives your website a tone of voice and it defines what your business does. It verbally brings your brand to life and explains your services in a way customers can understand. It also showcases your authority and your experience, as well as influencing your decision making. At the end of the day, it generates more sales.
And most importantly, it feeds directly into your search engine optimization, or SEO, as we're going to call it from here on out. So, what is SEO? Let's simplify SEO in a way that actually makes sense. It's how your website shows up when someone searches something up on Google. That's it.
So when someone types semi truck repair near me, or 24-hour diesel mechanic, or maybe even DPF cleaning in Dallas, Google has to decide which businesses should we show.
And Google uses signals to decide that. Things like content, structure, reviews, relevance, and authority.
So content tells Google what services you offer, where you operate, and how relevant you are to a search. And if your content is weak, Google doesn't understand your business.
And if Google doesn't understand you, you don't rank. And if you don't rank, you don't get calls.
So your website needs to work like a system. It needs to be found, build trust, communicate clearly, and drive action. All right, let's move on to a little bit of SEO and ads, because here's another important distinction. Paid ads stop when you stop paying, but SEO, it doesn't.
No, SEO compounds. It builds over time and it creates incredible value in its consistency.
So instead of relying only on referrals, you start generating steady inbound demand.
And in today's world, with AI summaries and changing search results, strong content matters even more because Google still pulls from trusted, structured websites. So having keywords and strong SEO matters when your content is meaningful and relevant to the person stuck beside on the roadside. They will call because that's about intention. Um, having understanding the search intention, so the reason why people are putting in searches is going to be equally helpful because not all searches are equal.
And when someone searches, what is diesel repair? That's research. But when someone searches diesel repair near me, that's action.
Those are high intent searches. And if you're showing up there, you're not competing for attention, you're capturing demand. So on the left on the screen, we have a search for information. What is diesel repair? Which is more focused on the specifics of an industry and what it means for diesel mechanics.
And on the right, we have more demand for information. Diesel repair near me. And it's meant for people who need the services of a diesel repair shop.
This is the difference. One is curiosity, the other is urgency.
All right, so let's talk about one of the biggest decision drivers, your social proof.
Because in service businesses, trust is everything.
And since customers can't test your work, they rely on other things, such as your reviews, your ratings, some testimonials you have on your site, as well as case studies.
Because social proof reduces uncertainty, acts it reduces uncertainty and it acts as borrowed trust. It validates decisions and it creates momentum. This will directly influence conversion behavior.
All right, so let's talk about some data. We have a lot of stats on this screen, but when people view a business profile or website, they look and analyze many different data points, and we have stats to back it up.
So we're looking at things like the percentage of people who read reviews, which is really high. And there's 74% of users who are prioritizing those recent reviews over the older ones. 87% are avoiding low reviews, and 40% of customers are avoiding businesses with less than 20 reviews. And for those looking for those really high stars, we've got 31% that need that. And also, Stanford research notes that 46.1% of people are judging a website credibility based on its design.
So what does this even mean? Your reputation isn't a nice to have, it's a deciding factor. It affects whether people click, whether they trust you, and whether they call. And that is why it is beneficial to your business to highlight some photos of your shop.
Take, for example, this recent partner where we worked on highlighting the shop and their branding, which helps to improve your reputation and the perception of your business.
All right, I know we've talked about before, but let's talk about the map pack. Because the Google Map Pack is where all of these factors come together.
The map pack is going to lay out everything in one spot: the reviews, the ratings, the phone number, the location, and your business hours. Why the map pack wins is because it compresses all of that data and makes the entire decision process in one place. It allows you to be the winning shop because it gives that to the person who is needing your services. Because people scan, assess the trustworthiness, and then make the call.
And having a review system is also immensely helpful. And these are not random reviews from dissatisfied customers, but people who've been positively impacted by your services and are able to vouch for your business.
So, what you want to do is make sure that you are training your team to be asking these questions at the end of every services. Use tools like QR codes, text, emails, and really talk to your customers. Ask them for reviews.
Also, responding to reviews is also immensely helpful because responding builds that trust.
And how you respond matters. You want to be human, be specific, and be fast. And don't forget that even bad reviews deserve attention.
All right. So let's talk about a little bit of alignment of how your website should be functioning because your website must confirm three main things. You must be able to solve the problem, prove you're credible, and prove that you're easy to contact.
Because people who scan websites in a matter of seconds are making decisions. So structure is going to matter. You need short sections, clear headings, and simple language. And you also want to consider that a lot of people are making decisions based on off of a mobile phone, and that is going to impact how they're looking at things.
And Statista states that 64% of all web traffic is mobile. So if your website is slow or confusing and not mobile friendly, you lose that call. All right. So your website is not just a website. It's your best salesperson.
And when you combine strong content, proper SEO, consistent reviews, and a clear structure, you create predictable inbound calls.
And if you take one thing away from today, your website should make your phone ring.
And if it's not, it's worth fixing. Thanks for your time.
All right. We'll give it a little bit of time before we answer any questions. So if you have any questions, just drop something in the chat and we can get to them. All right. So it looks like we have one question here. User asks, how can my Diesel Shop website generate more phone calls instead of just looking good? All right, I think I can answer that question. So there's a couple different factors that you want to take into consideration when you want to be generating more of these calls. You first immediately want to make it clear to the user of what services you offer, whether that be you're a mobile truck repair shop and you don't have a shop, but you have a mobile truck that can go to them right away and fix the problem. I think that's something that you really want to make clear straight away. You also want to make sure you have strong trust signals. So we've talked about it today, but having your reviews, photos, maybe a picture of your truck can be super helpful. You also want to make sure that your phone number is on that hero area in your page. So that means when you open up a website, is the first thing you see. So having your phone number right there is super important. And we've talked about as well today, making sure that you have your content explains who you are, how you help, what you do, and like kind of the area that you operate in. So if you're in Dallas, state that you're in Dallas. If you're in New York, state that you work in New York. And at the end of the day, you kind of just want to guide your visitors towards action and not just displaying information because we've talked about before, but your website shouldn't just be a brochure. It should be more concrete and more intuitive to kind of drive your content, your services all in one place and be clear to drive those calls, get those jobs going. Yeah, I hope that answers your question.
So it looks like there is another one here. So why are content, SEO, and reviews so important for Diesel Shop websites? Right. So Content is going to help your customers understand what services and expertise you offer. Um, it is going to play in with your SEO to help Google know where your shop sits in those search results when somebody comes in and looks for that information. Reviews are really important because, as we were talking about that social proof, it builds credibility and helps reduce that hesitation before somebody does make a call. So, good reviews and good responses are going to play a really big role in just giving your customers an idea of how your shop functions, how you, as the people in the shop, function. So your strong content and these trust signals are going to be helping both your roadside drivers and your fleet managers feel confident in the decision. And together, they will turn your website into more of an ecosystem that is going to attract traffic, build trust, and drive those calls.
Sweet.
Now, looks
That
like
looks like
that's
that.
it.
Yeah. Yeah. All right. And if you're a diesel shop owner watching this and some of these ideas that we've spoken about today resonate with you, with the key question of making sure that your web presence is there, and whether your shop's expertise is visible to the market and already searching for it.
Because, hey, trucks are still breaking down, fleets are still needing reliable partners, and more of those decisions are starting with the research before that first phone call.
And if you'd like to learn more about how websites can be built for diesel shops and diesel repair shops, whether that be websites, your search visibility, your reviews, or advertising, you can always reach out to us at Dieselmatic.
Because at Dieselmatic, we're focused exclusively on diesel shop repair marketing. So everything from your strategy to your messaging is going to be designed around how your diesel shop actually functions.
And if you're just evaluating your current visibility or trying to understand where your shop stands online, starting that conversation can provide some clarity.
So we hope this gave you some insight into how your websites can affect your growth and how understanding your online presence today can help build and position your shop for long-term growth. Thanks for your
Thank
time.
you.